dog. Mark scuffed downstairs to the recycling bins. He didn't mind dumping Mrs. Simon's newspapers because she was a nice after-school babysitter, but he didn't like her cat. Fang attacked ankles. The lid screeched when Mark opened the paper bin, and he wanted to screech too. He'd spent all last week drafting his list. He thought it would prove how much he wanted a dog. Even Mom thought it was a good list. I won't be lonely with a dog to talk to. Taking care of a dog will help me be more responsible. You will be a guard dog and watch out for us. It will be good exercise to walk a dog. Taking care of an animal will help me care more about others. Still, she'd said someday the landlord won't allow it in the apartment. But Miss Simmons had Fang, Mark said. Yes, but cats don't bark, Mom explained, and they don't bother neighbors. Mark wanted to argue that Fang was a real bother, and he had the scratches to prove it, but it was no use. He'd have to wait until they moved. I'll be a grandpa by then, Mark said aloud to a broken action figure that was staring at him from a pile between the dumpsters. Someone had moved out, and the bins were overflowing. Beside the action figure, there were baskets, plastic bottles, a wooden skateboard, a flat soccer ball, and some rope. Mark stared at the junk, then jumped up and grabbed a box. That gives me an idea. He rushed upstairs with a load, hoping Miss Simmons had some gray tape. What's in the box? His mom asked when she came to pick him up a couple hours later. Something I've always wanted, Mark said over his shoulder as he rushed to the apartment. He could hardly wait to get into his room to put the finishing touches on his creation. Come here, boy, he said as he opened the box and drew out the skateboard. He taped a milk jug and soda bottles to it for a body and legs. A cone-shaped basket and the soccer ball worked great as the nose and head with action figure parts for eyes and ears. Mark said, You're a mutt, Scraps, a real mix of a dog. Then he realized that Scraps was already the first thing on his dog list, a friend to talk to. Mark cut the rope from the trash into long and short pieces. He tied the longer one to the end of the skateboard for a leash and taped the other to the milk jug for a tail. Then he unlaced his shoes and tied a shoestring to the tail. Whenever he wanted Scraps to wag, he'd just pull. Perfect. Come on, Mark said, setting the skateboard on the floor and leading Scraps to the kitchen. What on earth? Mom said. Meet Scraps, my dumpster dog. He may not have fur and a heartbeat, but he doesn't bark. Mom laughed. He won't need food or water either. May I walk him? I guess, but he doesn't need bathroom breaks. No, but it's still my job, Mark replied, thinking of the second item on his list. He felt proud. Felt like a proud and responsible pet owner already. Scraps clattered as Mark pulled him down the hall. Mrs. Simon opened the door to check on the racket. You are so clever, she said when Mark introduced her to his finished project. But her cat wasn't impressed. Fang only gave a weak hiss from the sofa where he'd been all afternoon. Mark grinned. Number 3. Fang didn't dare attack with Scraps around. Mark picked up Scraps and carried him outside. He had walked the length of the park when he heard hoots. Some kids were pointing and coming his way. Uh-oh, here comes trouble. Mark didn't want to be teased, so he picked up Scraps and started running. He retraced his steps and made it to the building in record time. Walking Scraps was more exercise than he'd expected. He was trudging upstairs when Mrs. Simon rushed out. She was carrying the pet carrier. What's wrong? It's Fang, Miss Simon gasped. He hasn't been right all afternoon. Mark felt a pang of fear. Fang might be a pain, but he didn't deserve to be sick. Miss Simon must be so worried. He would be, too. I hope everything is okay, he called as Miss Simon hurried downstairs. And because he was a new pet owner, he meant it.